Okay, so last night we had a live stream about this. Harry and Meghan were giving their expert advice or experience to parents who had lost their children tragically because of bullying on social media. Yeah, I don't know how that makes sense either. And since many of you prefer the short version of my analysis, this is a summary of what happened yesterday. The first thing is that I thought that it was going to be a regular body language analysis and nothing more. We're going to have a nice time, be entertained, laugh a bit at the expense of the articles, and have a nice chat. And for some part, it was like that. Now, I thought this was going to be a bit longer, and I have to say that luckily it was just 9 minutes long because what we had already seen in my analysis of the trailer happened to be much worse. In fact, at the beginning of the analysis, I thought that this was going to be rather uneventful because I saw that Meghan had a neutral expression like the one you are looking at right now, and Harry had his usual, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I didn't have the highest hopes for this. But then something changed in Meghan. There was this lip pressing, as in she was no longer the center of attention. She was getting a bit bored, even if the interview was so short. There are alleged reports that she was screaming at the production team of this video for reasons that I really have not been able to confirm. But maybe it could have been because we already know that Harry was speaking and she had this face that she was not impressed at all. As in, I am the one who came to speak here. And that's what I had noticed in the trailer. But I didn't know to what extent. And we had the opportunity to confirm that the interviewer actually interrupted Meghan when she was expressing her brightest ideas. And that's why you see that sudden lip pressing and looks that could kill. But much more contempt was whatever Meghan was doing. Looking at Harry while Harry was doing his first responder speech, which by the way, I need to say this again. Harry said that parents had to be first responders because according to Harry, not even first responders know how to tell the signs of someone who wants to take their own lives. And that doesn't make sense because the signs of someone who has those thoughts are before the fact. First responders come after the attempt. So, as usual, Harry was speaking nonsense. And well, I don't know if Meghan's face is because she was upset because Harry was speaking nonsense, or it's because she wanted to talk the actual nonsense herself. But then there was this couple who tragically lost their son to social media bullying. And we could notice a couple things. The first one is that Meghan's body language didn't really change much during the interview. A very short interview. There was no change in posture. There was no switching on her seat. Nothing. Nothing relevant to talk about. Harry, on the other hand, while the couple were telling their story and speaking of their tragic experience, at least he had some reactions. Like he was pressing his lips, he put his hand between his legs, his hand resting on his thigh. He was really uncomfortable and he put his feet in that way that he uses to do when he's nervous, when he's anxious. One foot is sideways on the floor and the other is flat over the other. So we know that at least Harry had an emotional reaction about the couple's experience. But then we came to this part. To the retelling of the story that Meghan had these issues back then and she told in the Oprah interview, and you remember how that caused us tears. Many people saying that Meghan was lying and all that stuff. And at this point, I made it very clear last night that I had not seen the video. I was watching the video for the first time in front of you, my lovely live audience, and I really did not understand how could Meghan's so-called experience relate to parents who lost their child. And my best guess, which was wrong, is that she was talking about her miscarriage, like she lost a child and parents who lost their child, something like that was related. And while she was doing this, she was putting her hand on Harry's leg, and Harry Harry was not that engaged in the conversation. In fact, when Meghan begins to talk about our healing, they both looked away. They don't look the interviewer in her eye. And this is the thing that I needed to be absolutely clear about. When Meghan said, our healing, she was talking about the time that she had unaliving herself thoughts of taking her own life. And I had to ask the question, how exactly having thoughts of taking your own life at some point of your life helps parents who actually lost their child to that tragic event? Especially when Meghan claims about online bullying while she was married into the royal family. She had the office that could handle all her communications for her. She could just close the laptop. She didn't have to do anything. She could have remained a royal and not have to look at her replies or comments. She was, and I said, one of the 1,000 most privileged women in the world. To be conservative, because she very well could have been one of the 100 most privileged women in the world. And she was complaining that she had these thoughts because of online bullying. Meghan, you did not need at all to be reading comments. That was what was infuriating for me. It even created a brand new meme reaction that you can now use on Twitter or X. And then we move on. And when she begins to say that it's nice to be open about it, you see that smirk, that smile, that attitude, which is almost playful for the kind of stuff that we are talking about. And for a split second, she goes for her acting skills and tries to raise her inner eyebrows, as in sadness or angst, and a facial expression. But it's so cheap that I cannot describe how fake it looked. Not to mention when she said that I would never want someone to feel that way. And she was basically containing her laughter. There's something that I said last night that I have not experienced, and I hope not experience it ever. But I don't think there is a greater pain in this world than to lose a child. And just watching Meghan trivializing something like this, inserting herself where she has nothing to do as in an experience, that was despicable. I could understand that you could use your platform to bring awareness to this. That is one thing. That would have been great. But no, Meghan couldn't stop there. She had to introduce herself in that narrative to the point that she says, what I have overcome. And you can see her duping delight. Oh, this is something that happened to me and I overcame. This is really bad taste. Like, she overcame this. She's alive and now she puts that face in front of the cameras. How would you feel if an entitled duchess talked about an event like that? If you actually lost your child to online bullying? How would you feel if she implies, oh, I could save someone if I open up, and she puts this face? Again, it's almost making fun of it. Not to mention the final moments of her containing her laughter. And for those of you who spent last night's hour and a half live stream, you know what was my raw reaction to this. I have seen Meghan and Harry, especially Meghan, go low levels. But this is absolutely a new low. And it was gut-wrenching to see. How lower can she go? Only time will tell. But I would love to know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. Remember, much love and bliss.